Are you trying to get that next job in private equity or maybe with a PE portfolio company and having little to no success? If so, there's a really, really good chance that you're making this one mistake. It's super simple, and there's actually a really good reason that you're doing it. I actually see this with 99% of candidates out there. The good news is it's really correctable. And in this video, I'm going to tell you why you're making the mistake, give you a simple but easy to follow reframing, and then a 4-step system to get more job opportunities than you'll know what to do with. I'm Ken Canara. I've placed over 4,000 executives in project-based and full-time roles with private equity portfolio companies and PE firms. Here's the mistake. The mistake is you are thinking like a candidate. Okay, so let that sink in. You are a candidate. You are looking for a job, right? So it makes sense that you are thinking like a candidate. But the reality is that doesn't work anymore. It worked early on in your career. Maybe you were trying to get a job at McKinsey or Bain or BCG, and they hire hundreds, thousands of analysts every year. And because of that, they have to have a very definable, repeatable, scalable process that follows a certain timeline. And so if you think like a candidate, that actually works really well for something like that. Think of it as a little bit more of like a commodity type of resource. Now, fast forward to later in your career, right? Now you're looking for the next CEO or CFO job, maybe with a private equity portfolio company. Maybe it's a portfolio operations role that you're looking for at a PE firm. Then it becomes a very bespoke business problem. What do I mean by that? Well, say a private equity firm is hiring a CEO for a manufacturing business. They have a set of real business problems that they need to solve. And so they're going to have a very bespoke process for finding their next leader of that portfolio company. And so as soon as you realize this, then you can reframe yourself. And what do I mean? So instead of thinking like a candidate, think like a B2B services provider of one. Okay. Now that you've done that, if you're going to be able to survive as a B2B services provider, you need to figure out what it is that you can offer the marketplace. So step one is actually figuring out what your value proposition is. What's your superpower? This is actually the thing that allows you to command such a premium in terms of salary and bonus, and why it's so different from early on in your career. So figure out your superpower. What's the one problem that you can solve better than anyone else out there? So write it down, articulate it. That then becomes the narrative. The more specific, the better. Step two would actually be figuring out how to get that first client, right? And so now we've identified what you're good at. That's your competitive advantage. Now figure out who you're going to do it for. That's your ideal customer profile and target market. So if we stick with the same example, maybe it's you're really a commercially focused CEO type for manufacturing businesses. I don't know. Just stick with the example. But here's the idea. So if that's, there's certain things that go into that and make you really good at that. So if that's your superpower, well, then you need to figure out who it is that you need to target with that message, right? So I'm guessing it would be lower middle market and middle market buyout private equity firms, right? So which ones invest in manufacturing businesses? Okay, now figure out what are the titles that you want to be pursuing, right? So maybe managing director, managing partner, VPs, that sort of thing. But figure out exactly the type of customer that you're quote unquote selling to, okay? That's step two. Step three is figuring out your outbound strategy. So what do I mean by that? Well, you've identified what it is you can do, who it is that you're targeting. Now you need to figure out actually how to get in touch with those people, right? So the very best performers write down a list. They literally have a spreadsheet of 40 to 50 names that they've gone ahead and researched, identified, some of which they know, some of which they don't know, some of which they maybe know through a second degree connection and want to get introduced to. Whatever it is, just get that list going and then start reaching out. not everybody's going to respond to you, especially if you don't know them. Use referrals and introductions when possible. And then when you actually talk to them, remember, there may not be a specific role that they're hiring for today, but that doesn't mean that they aren't aware of other roles or there might not be something available in the future. And so what I always suggest to folks is ask 2 questions at some point in the conversation. Number 1 is, how can I help you, right? You're taking their time, so it's really important that you try to add value to them. And then number 2 is, who else should I be talking to? No, this is an open-ended question. They might not have answers, but in an ideal world, you'll get 1 or 2 other folks that you should be talking to. You can add them to your list and keep the flywheel going. So that's the outbound component. And I'll tell you something is, I would say 80% of the folks that I talk to are never going to do this because I don't know, maybe they're nervous. Same reason I probably get shy in front of the camera and that sort of thing. But if you do this, you will really amplify your chances of finding success. And then the last thing is your inbound approach, right? And so what do I mean by that? So if you're a B2B services provider of one, you wouldn't dream of doing that without a website. Well, okay, your LinkedIn is essentially your company or personal website, right? And so there's several things that you can do to professionalize this, but really there's kind of 3 goals. 1 is to get found. Number 2 is to stand out. And then number 3 is for someone to actually reach out and contact you. Now, in other videos, I've outlined all the painstaking steps that you can go through to actually do those 3 things and different keyword hacks and everything that you can do. I go through the entire LinkedIn profile. I'll actually put it in the link below, but you absolutely need to do that. One quick note on LinkedIn. A lot of senior level candidates roll their eyes a little bit at LinkedIn, and I understand why. It's not something that you had to do in the past, and the attitude is like, well, I'm pretty senior. Why do I need to do this now? Unfortunately or fortunately, it is such an easy way to stand out and differentiate yourself. I can't even tell you how many folks, clients of mine, the first thing they'll do is look at someone's LinkedIn profile. And if we're all biased, right? So, if we look at that profile and it looks like it hasn't been updated in 10 years, why do I want to talk to this person, right? And so do yourself a favor, try to get past the annoying little ego inside that says, I shouldn't have to do this. I went to Harvard. And just do yourself a favor and update that profile. Again, there's links below of what exactly you can do. But again, if you just use this simple reframe, now you're a B2B services provider of one, looking for that first client, you're doing 2 things. One is you're putting yourself in the driver's seat and you're being proactive, right? And so no longer are you having to respond to job applications online. You're really the driver. And that's really important as you're pursuing your career, right? Because the second thing this is going to do is just give you a lot more opportunities at the bottom of the funnel. You're going to be considering 3, maybe 4 opportunities at the 1-yard line, as opposed to trying to negotiate one offer that you're kind of lukewarm about if you approach this like a quote unquote candidate. As I mentioned before, I'm Ken Canara. I've placed over 4,000 execs with private equity firms and PE portfolio companies. If you like this content, please give us a like and a subscribe, and stay tuned for future videos.